Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. This week we're focusing on the upcoming US presidential election, with the battle over abortion rights very much becoming front and centre of the campaign. This election being the first since the US Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v Wade in 2022, which dramatically impacted women's access to abortion across America. 21 states now ban abortion or restrict the procedure earlier in pregnancy. Our colleagues at France 2 Television went to talk to women in several southern states seeking a termination and how they are affected by the political divisiveness.
In the quiet early morning hours, a single light illuminates the entrance to this clinic where women are arriving to have an abortion. But despite their efforts to be discreet, they are ambushed before they can enter. Anti-abortion campaigners are there to guilt them.
The child is alive inside you and made precious by God.
We don't want you to make this mistake.
Don't murder your child, ma'am. Don't be the mother of a murdered child. We were trying to convince women to not kill their babies. Simple as that. So
you tried to convince them?
Yeah, we're just here to have conversations, try to convince them.
In Florida, the right to abortion is limited to 6 weeks. But for Robert, the law is not restrictive enough.
You have to ask yourself the question, who makes something right? Does the state make something right, or does God make something right? And God says that this is murder, the state says that it's not. And when the two are in conflict, when they disagree, which one has the higher authority?
And what do you think?
The state is subject to God, absolutely.
Opposite them, volunteers accompany women to the front door.
They're very quiet today because you're here.
Normally they're more obnoxious.
Normally they're very vocal.
And
They are also religious. Their church has asked them to come to the clinic to help support the patients.
This behavior is inappropriate for anyone of any faith. This is what we can do. We put our faith into action.
But it doesn't take long for the two groups to come to blows.
It's a legal establishment. It's licensed.
I got that. Hey, what comes before legality? What's upstream from legality? It's morals, right? Morals and ethics. Yeah, no, it's too much wrinkled brain stuff has to go on for that conversation.
Inside, Candice, who has been running the clinic for 30 years, is getting ready to welcome her first patients of the day.
Okay, so this is the recovery room for patients who opt to do surgical. They come in here and they're going to do an ultrasound. They'll sit on the table here to confirm how far along they are. Why do they want to treat women like this? That's my question. Why do they want to control us? It's all about control. They want to take everything away from us. Everything.
Abigail is still within the legal 6-week period and will be able to have an abortion.
So the 6-week ban is so tight and so hard, just so early. And like you literally don't have time to think. It's either yes or no. Are you doing this or are you not? If I didn't come this weekend, again, I wouldn't be able to get one in Florida. I would have to go to a different state.
She made her decision because of financial concerns. Now, she hopes the upcoming presidential election will see the law changed.
It made me angry. I am hoping that the Florida amendment to extend the ban gets approved and praying that Trump does not get elected.
Since June 2022, when the US Supreme Court overturned the national right to an abortion, laws have been decided state by state. In Alabama, the procedure is illegal, even in cases of rape or incest. And patients like Elisa Gonzalez have had to travel elsewhere, sometimes to save their lives.
But this is the family album that we have. And we went ahead and named them Roxas Garrett Blackman. And these were the last ultrasound photos that we got. It's a boy.
When she was 4 months pregnant, she learnt her fetus had trisomy 18, a fatal disease. It had no chance of survival.
He had 2 holes in his heart, no nose bone, and his brain was mush. At that time, I was heartbroken. I was distraught. I was in a place of not knowing what to do. I'm trying to discuss options with them, and they said that they can't do an induction because that's technically abortion. And with the Roe v. Wade law being passed, their hands were tied. There was nothing they could do.
Elisa got sicker day by day and risked septicemia if she didn't act. So she decided to have an abortion and travelled 15 hours to Washington, D.C., where the procedure is legal.
The room is packed full of women, and it's like a can of sardines. And they do the procedure, they get it done, and I'm being woke up by being slapped on my arm, not tapped, and she's saying, hey, you gotta get up, somebody else needs that. I was beyond mad. I mean, how can somebody not be mad about that? I had to leave my hometown to go somewhere else for another physician to take care of me.
After the traumatising experience, Elisa decided to have an operation to stop having children altogether. Today, the couple's views on reproductive rights have completely changed, as has their vote.
Beforehand, I would have definitely voted conservatively. However, this entire experience has changed my whole perspective and, again, has made me carefully consider who I would vote for.
Honestly, wasn't even going to vote, but with everything that's going on right now, something's got to change. Kamala's looking pretty good right now for the women. She's always been for women's rights, which I don't really know a woman who wouldn't be.
An opinion that is less popular in Texas, where huge billboards flank main roads calling on citizens to vote for life on Election Day. Abortion is currently illegal in most Texan cities, and Mark Lee Dixon is on a crusade to keep it that way.
I remember at a very young age, I would look at these fetal models, and they just had a huge impact on me because I saw 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 ears, and that this is a human being. I felt like the Lord had called me to be a voice for the voiceless.
He founded what's called Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn, which has been adopted by 20 or so small towns, where citizens can take legal action against anyone who helps a woman to have an abortion, an initiative he preaches about daily.
Filing lawsuits is not a bad thing.
Many people in the room even feel it is their civic duty to report their neighbours.
If we can get this passed, and then let's go into these other states around us, and hopefully we do build that wall.
Abortion will be a key issue in the presidential election, and an issue that will intimately affect millions of Americans long after the votes are cast.
Now, in this presidential election, it does appear the gender divide between male and female voters is at its highest level ever. According to a recent New York Times poll of likely voters in the swing state of Pennsylvania, women favoured the Democrats' Kamala Harris 55% to 41%, while men favoured the Republicans' Donald Trump 52% to 39%. Joining me now from New York is Holly Baxter, the Executive Editor for Social Justice and Equity for the UK's independent newspaper, who's been closely watching the campaign. Holly, thank you so much for your time. As I said there, polling is showing that there is a definite gender divide emerging in this election, with abortions right up there as a major cause of concern. But have they overtaken economic issues for American female voters?
Polls suggest that they haven't entirely. However, abortion still remains a very, very big issue for women, and it has done ever since Roe v. Wade was overturned. That's unsurprising considering the slew of bans and heartbeat bills that we saw across the states after Roe v. Wade was overturned. And I think it's also really important to point out that when we see that gender divide coming up in the polls, especially in the swing states, women tend to turn out to vote more than men, by about 5 or 6%. So if women are dividing out from men like this and they're turning out to vote more, that means that the swing states look really good for Harris right now.
Recently, Holly, we saw extraordinary claims made in a book by Melania Trump that she supports abortion rights. Is there a strategic reason for her comments to be published as the Republicans is seeking the votes of women, and particularly undecided women voters?
It definitely does seem like that would be a good strategy for the Trump-Vance campaign right now. And we can imagine that Melania is being used to sanitize their image a little bit after things like Project 2025 left people very worried about abortion rights. However, it doesn't look like Melania is going to move the needle that much at this point in time. She has stayed out of the spotlight mainly for a long time. She didn't appear at the Republican National Convention. She hasn't done a huge amount of media interviews until now. And I can't imagine that her influence with one book when we're less than a month out from the election is going to move that needle at all.
So, Holly, how are the two parties crafting their campaign as a result, especially when it comes to targeting undecided women voters?
I think that the Trump campaign really wanted to roll out Vance as a sanitizing influence on the Trump campaign, but immediately he started saying things like childless cat ladies and talking about how women without children are not very relevant to America. And that really switched a lot of people off. And on top of that, we then had Trump saying things at a rally like, you won't think about abortion. I'll be your protector if I get in for a second term. And so the strategy they had around women, we really see falling apart there. With Harris, there has been some accusations that she has taken women voters for granted and that she hasn't done enough to especially try and convince Black women voters or Latino women voters for whom the economy and immigration are very, very big issues.
And if indeed Kamala Harris does win, what will that mean for abortion rights in the country?
We really hope that Harris would be able to get in and pass a Roe v. Wade style federal protection for abortion rights. But the reality is that she will need huge support in Congress, in the Senate and the House to be able to do that. And the way we're seeing polls go, we really don't expect her to have a Democratic majority there. So that's going to be very, very tough.
Holly Baxter, it's been great speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's all for this edition. So until the next show, bye for now.